Okay, guys, welcome back. We've got Charlie here, writer on the rugby paper and the Sports News Blitz, and the dust has settled. We're going to go for a more relaxed review of round three, talk about some of the big points. Charlie's going to lead the way here, and I'm going to react, and we'll have a little look ahead to round four as well. So, Charlie, where do you want to start us? Let's get straight into it.
Well, I think it's probably best to do it chronologically in
Yeah.
the form that the games were going in. So obviously Wales Ireland, the first one of the weekend, night and day compared to those last few games under Gatland, and it just shows what happens when you show a bit of ambition, appoint a new head coach, albeit on an interim basis, and it also shows that the appointment of the next head coach is just as important. Michael Checker, which I'm
Yeah.
not too sure about personally. I'm not sure what your opinions are on him being potentially the next Wales coach.
All right. Let's go straight there to the next Wales coach. Why not? We're just doing
Yeah,
it's scattergun stuff on this sort of video, isn't it, with us? Okay. Yeah, Checker, he looks to be the obvious choice, as in Easterby would have to be persuaded to leave a very good island, obviously. And I think he would cost Wales 500,000. And now it turns up that Smith as well from up in Glasgow, he would cost 500,000 as well. So, I mean, just pure money wise. And then you've got Checker, who's incredibly experienced, successful, available, like at the end of the season. It kind of seems a no brainer in a business sense. But yeah, he probably isn't the perfect fit for bringing up a young team, but he's experienced, he's adaptable. I think it would be a good choice, at least for 2 years to the World Cup. What do you reckon?
yeah. Well, I think he's a short-term solution, but I think Wales need a long-term solution. They need someone who's young, hungry, someone who has a lot to prove. Obviously, there's not many in the market that are like that, and that's very idealistic. But I think getting checkers not really going to solve the key issues, and it's not really going to progress the team. Yes, they'll have an upturn in results, and yes, they will sort of improve in the short term, but long term, I don't think he's necessarily the answer. And it's strange as well because I thought he was leaving Tigers to go back to Australia. Um,
Yeah, but when you get a head coach of a major nation, it's going to turn your head, isn't it? It's going to turn your head.
yeah, I
But I
mean,
mean,
back
it's
to
still a
the
rumor.
yeah, of course, and there'll be plenty more rumours to come before an actual head coach is appointed, I'm sure. But yeah, back to the game. I
Yeah,
thought
the game.
Wales were yeah, well, the reason we're all here. Yeah, Wales were good. Ireland again showed championship credentials, winning the game and winning a game that they were potentially at stages looked like they could have lost. I don't think it was ever in serious doubt, but it definitely could have gone another way. I mean, that 20-minute red card becoming a actual red card, that very much changes it. Obviously, Bundy Aki was the catalyst for the sort of Ireland revival at the end of the game, and he wouldn't have came on more than likely.
No, I tell you what, Charlie. Since we're going round, I mean, 20-minute red card. That seriously helped Ireland, and all the 20-minute red cards I've seen recently have really, obviously haven't severely impacted the game. Teams have been able to recover from them. And then the question is that really now a punishment? Is it just like a slightly harsher yellow card, which I guess it is? So great news for Ireland for the 20-minute red card, but I'm not sure it's really much more of a deterrent. What do you reckon?
Well, I mean, you say it's not much more of a deterrent. It's still 20 minutes
Yeah,
without a player on the pitch. Obviously, it's not as much of a deterrent as a red card, but at the same time, it's not meant for sort of offences that are red card worthy. I wouldn't have wanted to have seen it been given as a red card and potentially change the game.
as in a straight red, you mean?
Yeah, as in
Right.
as in a straight red. I think it probably would have been in former years, obviously before the 20-minute red card. But yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to see that as the sort of catalyst in the game.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean Ireland not quite at the races yet again, really in the tournament. They've not been at their absolute best. They've played well, but this game they ground it out. They got a result, and that shows the marks of a championship side, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they weather 20 minutes with 14 players, and then they come back, win the game. It's decent, especially away from home. Wales just absolutely ravenous for this game. And you've got to say, Matt Sherratt, I mean, he said himself he was surprised with how well. I mean, you're going to get this bounce in motivation, I guess, from a new coach, that sort of thing. But the way they adapted to the new attacking systems, he was like, I'm amazed by how well they did, and they looked like a side who had been together for a lot longer than what, 4 days or whatever they had training.
And it helped that he picked the best players in Wales, which Gatland didn't do for the past few sort of games or months.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, it was only a couple, but they made a difference, didn't they? I mean, Max Llewellyn was a poor pick, as in not to pick him in the first place. And Gatlin was, this is really interesting, actually, and this is going on to the England discussion later. Both Gatland, Borthwick, they're quite data driven guys, quite old school data driven. And Gatland didn't like the numbers that Llewellyn was putting out and kind of ignored the fact that he is one of the biggest talents in the centres and they needed a player like that. And then when he came in, he gave them direction. He hit up hard. He was a decoy, but he can play as well. So yeah, I think that shows that was a massive mistake of Gatland's.
yeah, and I think picking Will Griff John was a bit of a masterstroke in hindsight. Obviously, a lot of people doubted his selection, but he was absolutely immense, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, again, yeah, I wasn't sure about it, but he's a big old guy, and he did a job, and they were good in the scrum, and yeah, and then they put together their attack, and Anscombe was decent, but I think the one that really caught my eye was Jared Evans, the Harlequin. I mean, he looks very, very good. He's a good age. I mean, he could be the man.
Yeah, I mean Jack Morgan as well, but obviously that's a known fact and has been a known fact, and obviously he's not a new player, but yeah, Jack Morgan good as always as well.
Yeah, and they're getting well, they've got Lake back in the squad as of today, apparently. So that and the fallow weeks come at the right time. So you chuck him into the 23, they're gonna have a crack, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean I still don't think they win their last two games, either of them,
No,
but
Scotland away next, isn't it?
yeah, and then obviously England. But I don't see them winning either of them. But as long as they put in good performances like they did against Ireland, I think the Welsh public will be happy and we'll see it as a successful end and an improvement on
Yeah,
what was a poor start.
it was strange, wasn't it? As in they got fairly well beaten in the end, but the crowd was still really happy with it, as they should be, because they gave them what they wanted, the excitement, energy, great tries. I mean, the Rogers dive in the corner was fantastic. Great try. And that's what the crowd wants. And again, I think that's a little bit underestimated maybe by, you know, the powers that be, that actually the crowd, the fans, the buzz, the excitement, that's what generates all the money. And it only took 4 days to get it. So phenomenal stuff. But I mean, can they keep it going?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely can do, and I think they will do because the expectations are still pretty low. So,
Yeah.
in a way, it will be pretty hard for them to not continue to deliver in a positive way in terms of the public. So, yeah, I think they can keep it up, and I think they'll give a good account of themselves in the last two games.
Yeah, I tell you what, one more thing I'd like to ask you about. So Ireland, they've got a new 10, of course, Sam Prendergast. And what did you make of him? Has he made a proper charge for this line spot?
Yeah, massively. I mean, we'll get onto it later in terms of Finn Smith and Finn Russell, but I think he's definitely acquitted himself very well. He's a similar mold to Smith in the sense that he's a pretty sort of consistent player. You seem to know what you're going to get from him.
Apart from his tackling, which he missed, I think set seven or something. And he
Yeah,
got run around, clean run around. So that's the worry, I think, at the moment. But
yeah. I mean, see, I was having this debate with someone else regarding Finn Smith actually and his defensive
okay.
work. I personally, and it might be unpopular, but I personally wouldn't judge a 10 too harshly on their defensive work. Obviously, it needs to be there, don't get me wrong. But he was saying that Finn Smith had a very, very good game because of his defensive work. And I kind of disagreed. So yeah, I think that's just a personal thing really, but I personally wouldn't judge him too harshly on his defensive ability and instead on the other side on what he does.
True. if he misses 7 tackles every game, then I think that's a problem. If it's a
Mm,
one-off, then yeah, you're right. I mean,
yeah.
his kicking especially, he is an absolute bomb of a kick, silky
Mm,
smooth as well. The big bullet spin kick over the top of the head of, I think it was Jared Evans for the 50-22 that actually led to the try in the end, the tap back try. You know, potentially the difference, and he's got that strut about him, hasn't he? That he knows he's good. He knows he's good, and he steps up and delivers. But he still makes mistakes. He got a bad charge down, like I said, missed the tackle. So it's fascinating. I mean, if we're going to talk about the Lions 10 at some point, fantastic. But he's in there.
yeah, massively, massively in the conversation. And right now, personally, I'd take him. But a lot can change if he suddenly
Yeah, I mean,
misses a few kicks.
it's a big old conversation for another day, and it depends how many fly halves that Andy Farrell takes, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, what's next? What's next, Charlie?
We'll go on to England's win against Scotland.
Ooh, okay, let's do it.
I think England were very fortunate yet again.
One
Very,
point win
very
again.
fortunate. It's the same as France. You can look at it cynically and say that we got lucky, which I would personally for this one.
I mean, okay,
But you can
let's say
also,
it how it, Charlie. They did get lucky. They did get
well,
lucky, but luck is a part of sport. So,
mm.
you don't begrudge luck, but go on.
But my but was that if they keep playing like that, then they're not going to get anywhere. That was my but. Not that they didn't get lucky, but that they can't continue. There's only so much luck that they can get,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll go for my spiel on this one because, it's been a few days and there's been lots written about it. And I am happy they are 2 out of 3 for sure. They played the three hardest teams in the tournament and they've won 2 of them. And if you said that at the beginning, you'd say, oh, that's pretty decent. But what was weird about it, and what just as a human emotionally, what just gets me a little bit down is against France, they played some exciting attacking rugby, scored 4 tries. I got so excited, I did a whole video about it with loads of freeze frames saying, wow, we're getting multi-phase attack with 2 playmakers, some great shapes, great options, and then some off-the-cuff magic. And I was like, that is brilliant. Tommy Freeman's try that was. Then for this match, where they picked the same team. They picked Marcus Smith at fullback, who's not a high ball defensive fullback. They had Slightholme on one wing, who's not a high ball merchant, and they played a kicking game. It's just weird. It's like the numbers told Steve Borthwick to play a kicking game, and we know he is a bit of a robotic numbers coach, which for me personally is just grates a little bit. But okay, if he thought that's how you win the game, and they won the game, his team didn't really seem to reflect what he told them to do. It's just a bit strange.
Yeah, and I think playing a kicking game, as you said, with Smith at 15 especially, just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think everyone before the game sensed that as England's weakness in terms of Smith against the physical Scottish players, and they almost played into that. And yes, they won, but are either of us particularly happy, or are the general English public particularly
Yeah.
happy? I'm
Well, I
not
mean, well,
too
okay,
sure.
the crowd was booing, and the crowd doesn't boo unless they're bored silly. They're just fair. I mean, kicking's got a part in the game, of course it does. But every other team in that Six Nations round all attacked in a different way. They were all positive. France went through the middle with offloads. Um, Italy played some great attacking shapes. Everyone attacked in a certain way, apart from England. But their team was selected to attack. So I just can't quite work it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was a pretty poor watch. I mean, Scotland were better in almost every metric apart from the one that matters.
Yeah, I think we're going to be getting in England under Borthwick that we're actually not sure how they're going to play. And they could play a really boring game. They could play an exciting game. I think he goes where the numbers point him. And personally, I'm a bit more of a fan of the numbers helping you, but essentially you have an ethos, a way of playing. And I don't know, it just doesn't inspire.
One thing I will say though is that at least I mean, he's been accused in the past of being pretty rigid. In a sense, he still is in terms of the numbers, but I guess if you change how you play depending on the opposition, that shows a lack of being rigid.
Yep, no, that's a fair point. But again, the point stands is like he changed his game plan and then all the players seemed wrong for it. Mitchell, let's take Alex Mitchell. He is a running knight. For Northampton, he is amazing around the pitch. If they wanted to play a kicking game against Scotland, fine. The man is there. It is Spencer. Spencer is there, the best kicker in the Premiership. And it's just weird. He could have played Roebuck on the wing instead of Sightholm. So I don't get it. I don't get playing a kicking game and picking a non-kicking team. Anyway, I'll leave it there. That's my point made.
Yeah, no, I completely agree though. I mean, as well, back onto Scotland, Townsend, is it time for him to go? Has he took Scotland as far as he can go?
Well, they looked amazing, didn't they? The flow on the attack was beautiful. They scored some great tries. So it's not like they're doing that badly as such. It's just there's something there, isn't there? There's some psychological block. They should have won that game. They know they should have won that game. They were sick as dogs. And is it a case of just the the magic's gone? It's a bit stale. They just need a fresh face, really, to get over that hump of we are good but not good enough.
But is the psychological aspect from Townsend, or is it a greater problem with Scottish rugby? Because I think England have that same psychological thing, and I don't think it's necessarily Borthwick's fault. So yeah, is where the problem actually roots from.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, the captains were a bit strange. You've got Russell, who I don't think should be a captain. I think you should let him just play and be himself. And you have like a figure over him who's kind of steering the ship. And then the other co-captain, who is Darge, isn't it? So you've got Darge and Russell. That just seems a strange pick. And then Townsend's been there for a long time. He's had run-ins with plenty of players. He's fairly spiky. It's like maybe it's just a natural time to change. Not because he's not good enough. It's just run its course potentially. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Or I mean, they may well just stick with it to the World Cup and then change. And this year is the year. If you want to make a change before the World Cup, this is the year because you've still got 2 years and it's a Lions tour, which takes all the pressure off the summer tour. So if you're going to make a change after this Six Nations, the perfect time to do it. If Scotland don't change, then he's going through to the World Cup.
Yeah, which possibly isn't the worst thing in the world. He's still a very competent head coach, but it runs the risk of it getting stale and just tailing off, and this talent that they've got right now just being wasted.
Before we move on, any England players you want to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, Finn Smith, I thought wasn't necessarily as good as he was in his first game. It was a hard game to follow. Defensively, very, very solid, which is a good thing to see. And it's a good aspect of his game that he's shown he can bring to test level, which is obviously a positive. But like I said earlier, I don't necessarily judge tens on that. I thought his game management was very good. Obviously his kicking, like from the tee, was very good.
Yeah.
I thought he was good. I liked what I thought. He showed maturity.
Passing wise, he wasn't. I think the stat was he made almost as many tackles as he did passes. So he was told to do that. So it was a game to be solid, to tackle, to kick. With the goal kicking is interesting. I'd like to know your opinion on this. If Finn Smith is 10, he's an excellent goal kicker. Why not? And he took the long range goal kick. Why not just have him kicking all the kicks? Why have Marcus Smith kick the kick? I don't quite get that.
Yeah, I can't think of any reason for it, really.
Well, I think the reason is because Marcus Smith was the goal kicker at the beginning of the tournament. If you take it off him, you kind of shatter the confidence sort of thing. So I think it's kind of keeping him happy as such. But if Finn Smith is the 10 and he's going to take longer range kicks, you might as well just kick him all the way through. Finishing on a positive, players-wise, I mean, it was some decent shifts from a lot of these players again, tackling their hearts out, and they're getting lots of game time in together. So the positive is we're getting a nucleus of England players who are getting a lot of experience together. Take Will Stewart, tight head. He's just come on leaps and bounds. Toje looks, like he's back in the groove. Tom Curry, I think it was only a dead leg he came off for. So That's good news. Earl was decent again. Willis was good before he had to go off. So there are good points in there. I think there's plenty to improve personnel wise as well. But I think it just depends how Borthwick is going to set them up. Is he going to free these guys to attack and play like all the other teams do, or is he going to occasionally just restrict them?
Yeah, and I think I'll finish as well by saying that England won despite Borthwick, not because of him, which is a bit of a worry going forward.
Since we're on this setup with Borthwick again, I don't want to be too negative in a way because they
Yeah,
won, but you've got to say what you see. Otherwise, what's the point, huh? The other
yeah,
one that was really weird is it was a kicking game, like I said, and he started a load of players that didn't suit the game plan. Then he made a change on 61 minutes. I got it here. He brought Harry Randall on, and I made a note. I was like, okay, surely this means England are going to go from their kicking game and try and get the ball through the hands and get some really quick running phases. And he wasn't. He just brought on another kicker, and Randall is probably the worst kicker in the Premiership. And it was just so odd. It was just such an odd decision to take Mitchell off and bring Randall on to do what he's not good at.
On a positive note, it's good that we've finally beaten Scotland after
Yeah,
4 years. So
absolutely. Yeah, no, that is good. And I'm always hopeful that the next game against Italy, they're at home and they're allowed to play and express themselves. And I think they will. I think they will be allowed to do that in that game. And then those combinations may well work a lot better.
fingers crossed for that one.
Okay, last game. So we've got Italy 24, France 73. What have you got for me on that one?
Just, I think it shows us what we already know about France, but when they turn it on, they're absolutely unplayable. But it's just a question of consistency. And, these aren't the games that they're going to be judged on. It's good. It's good. It's very good that they won. They won by such a high margin, but at the end of the day, we all kind of knew that they were capable of that. It sends out a statement to Ireland, which is definitely a positive. But I don't. Yeah, I think it almost proves why they're so frustrating at times because they're capable of playing such good rugby,
Uh,
basically.
and what was good about it for them, of course, I think it was the second highest score ever. And this is against Italy, who are the best Italian side ever, no doubt for me. They've got great combinations, they've got great players, they've been together for a perfect amount of time. You've got Melancello and Brex in the centres, who are fantastic. I rate the halfbacks, Page Rayo, the nine, really like the Canone brothers. I mean, this is a good Italian team that ran some great attacking shapes in that first half, but they still got absolutely squashed. And it's like they're squashing a decent team here, and the way they play is so hard to mark because they're not really running the fancy shapes that Italy run. They're just doing something amazing, like bumping a player off and offloading, or just playing super fast and popping off the deck, or Dupont's breaking, sucking players in. And there's just not a lot to do you can do about it when these players are that much better than you.
Yeah, but I think part of the reason that France was so good is also part of the reason why they struggle, and that is the unstructured or lack of structure of a lot of their attacks. They kind of allow players to express themselves, which of course worked in this instance, but I think is sometimes their downfall against the better defenses and the better nations.
That's absolutely true. I mean, if you stop them on the gain line and you stop those offloads and you stop that momentum, then they're not falling back on a whole lot. Like Ireland could fall back on amazing shapes and pre-rehearse stuff and
Yeah.
get back into it that way. If you frustrate France, then yeah, you can definitely get to them. That's a great point.
That's why for me it doesn't really prove a whole lot because they're always going to get games where everything clicks and they're not
Yeah,
frustrated and it all goes well. But they could very easily play Ireland, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ireland's defence stands strong,
yeah.
does what it needs to, and frustrates them.
It's a really good point, Charlie. So that's the next round. So a good time to look ahead to round four then, just to wrap it all off. We've got three games, obviously: Ireland, France, Scotland, Wales, and England, Italy. But to me, it's screaming out that first game is the game. Ireland, France. If France win, everything is up in the air. It blows the tournament wide open. Is it as simple as that? Is it all about that one game?
Yeah, short answer, yeah, massively. Obviously, the other teams have to do their bit. England can't afford to slip up, especially. But yeah,
against a team they've never lost to. I mean, England, that's one record they've still got. They've never lost to Italy.
Yeah, I didn't actually realise that.
Yeah, never. Scotland are at home, so you expect them. They should win. They'll be stung after losing to England, so you think they should win against Wales, and then if Ireland win, then I mean the Grand Slam's still there, and they're looking pretty good for it.
Very, very good for it if they win that. I think that's I mean, it was always going to be the hardest test for them, and it was always going to be the game that potentially decided who won it. Obviously, England are lurking now, which was a bit of a surprise to a lot of people, but yeah, it's a huge game.
Yeah, I mean, from not a neutral's perspective, but from everyone who's not Irish, you want France to win because then it makes the last round exciting. I mean, potentially, if Ireland win, they're first on Super Saturday. So let's say they polish off Italy and it's all over. Then you've got two meaningless games and it's a little bit of a damp squib to the tournament, apart from if you're Irish and it's amazing.
Yeah, no, agreed. But if France win, then it is all to play for in that last game.
Yeah, Allez le Bleu, I think, in that round, definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Charlie, that's a great place to finish it. Thank you so much for your time. We will see Charlie again after the next round. So thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank you very much, Rich. Cheers for having me on.
No problem. And we'll catch you guys next time.